Hey, how are you?
Yeah, good. Have you got a permit at all?
Now, we've talked about the top 5 smartest things that graffiti writers and artists do to not get caught doing illegal graffiti, but sometimes it's better to look at things from the opposite perspective. And that's why today we're going to be looking at the top 5 dumbest things that graffiti writers and graffiti artists do to get themselves caught doing illegal graffiti, including the one in the thumbnail.
Tell me anything about that.
And why it's one of the worst things you can do to get caught doing graffiti. Now, this is going to be an objective look at how graffiti writers get themselves caught doing illegal graffiti, of course, but there's a lot of lesser known facts about sort of the inner workings of the illegal graffiti scene. And if you haven't been doing graffiti in all of its forms for a good amount of time, you won't have heard of some of these. So stick around and we'll see how many people have heard of some of these things happening. Let's get into it. Number 5. Let's start off with the most obvious first, tagging in front of a camera. Graffiti artists get themselves caught tagging in front of cameras all the time.
Caught on camera. We have new video now in a follow-up to a story. Surveillance pictures showing vandals striking a local business.
A lot of times the camera footage alone actually reveals enough for the police to work with and actually eventually make an arrest.
Take a good look at these pictures of 2 guys at the building she's renovating. Both are white males with long hair on their shoulders. One guy is wearing glasses. The other has his nose pierced.
And when that happens, it just makes you look like you made a total 50 IQ graffiti play. And there are proper ways that graffiti artists handle cameras smartly that we talked about in the top 5 smartest things graffiti artists do, but we'll talk more about that later. Number 4. Now, this is the first serious one that a lot of inexperienced graffiti writers especially get themselves caught because of, and that is tagging with other graffiti artists who you don't know. Now, you have to keep in mind, graffiti artists and writers are putting their freedom at risk every single time they do illegal graffiti.
I ended up in jail with like a $100,000 bail in New Jersey.
So why would a graffiti writer want to put his or her freedom at risk by tagging with people that he or she can't trust?
That's all I carry, man. This how you get this. Got money, that's it.
Now, in some of the more competitive and hardcore areas still today, some crews will ask newer, inexperienced graffiti writers to come on missions with them or come paint with them. And unfortunately for that newer artist, a lot of times what happens is that artist who's thrilled to be going on a mission with his new writer friends, all of a sudden there's a shout from security in the train yard. The new guy ends up with 3 or 4 bags of paint thrown at him while the rest of the crew makes a swift getaway, and they're the one that gets caught. Now, the reason graffiti crews will do this in those more competitive hardcore areas is that if you can convince a newer artist to come with you and you have a good ability to control, you know, what they're doing and how much information they have about you, then you can use them as a scapegoat in scenarios where you're potentially needing to run from security or police. So a lot of times for those newer graffiti artists, this can be a brutal wake-up call. Yes, the graffiti world can be savage.
Now, how important is it to you to have your tag on a wall? Is it worth killing somebody for?
Yeah.
Well, if you get in the way, you're gonna be a tagger, you can't show weakness.
Number 3, posting online. There are so many people out there who are guilty of this. They'll post their pieces with just personal information in the photos, like an arm with, you know, some of their tattoos or something like that. And in more cases than you would think, this leads to them getting caught.
Thanks to the video posted, our Metro Vancouver Trans Police General Investigation Unit were able to identify and arrest both suspects.
There are some pretty famous examples out there as well. Rather than me going into them, I'd love to hear, because I know some of you guys will know some of the famous ones I'm thinking of. Drop them in a comment. I'll definitely read them. We'll see if we're on the same page about that. Number 2, telling people you do graffiti or bragging about it.
If you gotta pull this out sometimes, you gotta do it. But then we prefer doing this, you know, tag style.
Now, this happens again, especially with those younger, inexperienced graffiti artists more of the time, especially the really young ones who are still in high school. All it takes is the wrong person overhearing that you're bragging about the locker that you tagged, probably in front of a camera, and all of a sudden the teacher's involved and then the police are involved.
Police say they've taken photos of themselves tagging the old school.
And it's like you did 2 really dumb things simultaneously. So don't be caught doing that. Number 1. Now, most graffiti artists all agree that this is the biggest sin in terms of getting caught, and that is doing anything to get other graffiti artists caught, just like the one in the thumbnail. Now, one of the most relevant examples of this is blowing up a spot. For some of the newer writers out there, blowing up a spot is when graffiti artists paint in a train yard and they leave either garbage or paint cans behind in that train yard, or they're just really loud and obnoxious while painting there. What this does is it alerts train yard security or rail police that that junction is an active junction where graffiti is being painted. So it turns a once safe train yard for painting into a spot with heat on it. And a lot of times other graffiti artists will subsequently get caught. And if you get other graffiti artists caught in that manner, you better hope they don't find out who you are. The second way of getting your fellow graffiti artists caught as well is ratting out your fellow graffiti writers. Now, a lot of times, believe it or not, when the police catch a graffiti artist doing graffiti, they'll ask them about information on other graffiti artists' names and things like that.
We start to see a mural, we see a mural on a train. Tell me anything about that.
They'll threaten the captured graffiti artist with being charged for the damages done by all of those different graffiti names.
It looks to be the outline of Nokia. Or N-O-K-I-A-R. Does that mean anything to yourself? Are you part of a graffiti crew called NUL?
They'll say that we're going to pin all of these names on you if you don't give us the information we're looking for here. This is especially common if you get caught painting with a crew and you're the only one that gets caught, and they know you're in a crew. They know you have information about other active writers. Now, obviously, I can't legally give advice for what the best option to do here is, but what your crew expects from you in that scenario is for you to say,
no comment, no comment, no comment.
No comment. It's just sort of a code of honor thing within the graffiti world. But if you want to know about the smartest ways that graffiti artists avoid getting caught doing illegal graffiti and how they handle security cameras like we were talking about earlier, you can check out the video on screen. We talk about that there. I'll see you over there soon. Until then, peace.
I've got a whole series.
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on really anyone.